Imagine if someone you loved called you in a dire situation, needing money because they were in trouble. Would you give it to them? And what if that desperate person was your grandchild? I'm Molly Thomas. This is Big If True. Tonight, we talk senior scams. Hello?
Grandma? I'm in trouble and I need your help. I'm in a lot of trouble.
Now, with new technology, scams come straight to your phone, sometimes disguised as family. Now, that's a reenactment posted by the Toronto Police. But listen to this real recording of someone claiming to be a police officer in the Niagara region.
So I have the arrest report here.
The man tells a senior that a loved one has been arrested.
It does require a bond to be posted in order to secure his release here today.
What kind of a bond?
It's a bail bond. It's $9,550. It is 100% refundable. Are you willing and able to assist him?
$9,000?
That's correct.
The suspected scammer goes on to say only cash is acceptable. These types of scams happen more often than you might think. New numbers from the Ontario Provincial Police show that in the first 6 months of 2025, seniors were cheated out of more than $100 million right across Canada. TVO producers reached out to dozens of Ontario seniors, but many refused to come on camera because they were scared, embarrassed, or feared retaliation from scammers. We finally found a man in Alberta who was willing to speak on the record. Last year, Kent Ashmead received a frantic call on his landline.
I got the call 11 o'clock in the morning approximately. It was from my grandson.
The person he thought was his grandson said he'd been arrested and needed help.
And he said, I can only make this one call. And he said, oh, here comes the bailiff. And so the bailiff got on the phone and says hello. And
it was pretty intricate. He talked to several people that day, badge numbers, so sergeant and everything. Yeah, it was quite complicated, and it just so happened that a bailiff lived nearby and could pick up the money and get him out of the remand center.
Wow, so multiple people calling you, but the first call you thought was from your grandson. Why did you think it was your grandson, Kent?
The voice.
The voice, and when my grandson, when the grandson phoned, it was his voice. I'm familiar with him. And he said, hi, Papa. And that's, my grandson's called me that. So I 100%, that's who he was.
Yeah. And he believed he was in trouble because it was his voice, and called him Papa and said, don't tell Mom, and I don't have my phone.
So specifically said, don't contact you, Nicole. Like, don't get yourself involved.
Very specific, don't tell Mom, because I don't want her to get worried. So he was feeling my dad was being a good grandparent and didn't say anything, just paid the money.
So you think that some kind of technology was involved to take the voice of your son, some kind of AI, something?
Absolutely. It was because it happened again almost 2 years later. And at that time, I thwarted it because I happened to walk in and they were on the phone with my mom this time. And I heard the voice, and it's my son's voice. It's a recording. It's AI. I'm not sure, but he says, hi, it's me. Is Papa there? Called my mom by the name they call her. It was his voice. So it's some type of technology that they're able to mimic the voice.
Kent, let me ask you, was there any point in any of those calls that you thought this might be a scam?
On my way to the bank, I thought this could be a scam.
Then the bank did ask him, can I ask you what this money's for?
Oh, they checked
in. Said, yeah, and he said, I didn't want to say anything to embarrass his grandson. So he said, it's for furniture. And took it up.
So they were trying to protect you, and even
they were trying to protect him, yeah. But he had all these badge numbers and talked to 3 different people and just really felt it was real, and it sounded so real.
How did you feel when you found out this was all a scam?
I thought, how could I fall for this? I'm more cautious than this. I'm a critic of some sort, and I just and when after I got back, and they actually the amount of money had to be, they told me to be counted, and in a white envelope, and the password was blue, and an 8-digit number to verify this was a bailiff coming to the door. And
so
I
someone
saw
physically came to your door. Someone came and knocked on your door.
Yeah,
to get that money.
Yes. They had made instructions because this bailiff apparently lived close by my dad, so he could get it to faster, so that my son could get out of jail faster.
Wow.
The worst part was after it was done and Dad gave him the money, Dad thanked him for his service.
Right. I think people would be listening to your story and say, if my grandkid was in that situation, I would do the same thing. So I empathize with that for sure.
And truthfully, he was so relieved when he found out it was a scam and that my son wasn't in jail and that there wasn't something nefarious. He was just so happy that he was okay, because he said, I would have done anything for him. And they're banking on that. So, right.
And they when he left, when I was talking to the bailiff out the door, I was on the phone to the other crook. And so he said, your grandson, once the money's verified by the sheriff out there, they'll okay for his release. Sure enough, that time I phoned my grandson on his cell phone, and he said, hello. And I said, where are you? And he said, I'm at work. That I knew I had it.
Then he knew.
Right.
Yeah.
Nicole, what have you learned from this? Because obviously, your father's gone through it. Your mother faced it later on.
Yeah.
What have you learned from this situation?
I think for me, the biggest thing is that I was happy that he told me. I think that people are ashamed and people feel embarrassed. And so they don't talk to their family, don't tell them that this has happened. Just pretend like it didn't happen. Don't talk to their friends about it. They're ashamed. But the truth is that's how it gets worse and keeps going because nobody talks about it. So, as a family, I think it's important now we have more communication about this and how it happens and the key elements. Don't tell mom or dad, don't, whatever. They're in some type of peril that only you can help them with. And I don't have my phone. The second time the phone had been taken, the other time, whatever, they always somehow you can't phone them because immediately if you called them, you would know what was happening.
So Kent, what would you say to other seniors that are scared to share what happened to them?
Your family will not disown you. I think they'll appreciate, glad you told us, and they'd pass it on, and I think the word just gets out. That one tells another. If you hide it, it's not going to go away.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and I think that every family should be talking about this because the scammers are getting more and more sophisticated, and they're coming after the people that we love the most.
Everybody the family have a password.
Safe word.
So you just ask the crook, just say, what's your pet's name? And if the person can't answer, that's a clue.
Thank you both for your time today. Really appreciate talking to you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
While Canadians try and find their own ways to stay safe, police say organized crime groups have already turned fraud into big business. In early 2025, Gareth West, a Montreal man, was accused of operating a sprawling network that allegedly stole at least $30 million from vulnerable seniors. A CBC investigation found that 24 people allegedly worked for West. His organization seemed to be structured like an average business, with paid employees, supervisors, and vacation time.
This is what's going to happen. SQ will be going through into the room first, and we will follow in behind. Make sure everything is safe. If we have our targets, we'll hold them.
And just last year, police took down another suspected organized crime group. The operation, called Project Sharp, was led by the Ontario Provincial Police and officers from Quebec and even Homeland Security in the US. They arrested 14 people and laid 56 charges. Police say millions of dollars were lost, with victims spread out across Canada. We wanted to understand how a network of criminals operates and if we can do anything to stop them. We sat down with OPP detective John Armitt and tech expert Ritesh Kotak. Okay, so we have seen, the takedown of coordinated groups of alleged scammers here. Detective, when you look at these groups, what have you learned about these operators?
I've learned that it's transnational crime and organized crime in Canada to commit these frauds at volume, and money is the ultimate reason why they're doing this, and they'll hit anyone and anyone to fill their coffers with cash. So
it's not Joe Blow sitting in his basement. Like this is well organized, well put together.
Yeah, when you look at these maybe Kijiji Facebook marketplace scams, that could be a one-off, but the grandparent scams, the crypto investment scams, the bank investigator scams, that's organized fraud.
So when we're talking about grandparent scams, Ritesh, how are they finding these seniors?
There's multiple ways that they're able to find the seniors. Just think about the type of information that's actually out there that's published. You have phone books. I know that sounds very old school, but it's still a thing. You can go online, you have names, you have phone numbers. There's historical searches as well. There's internet archives that can be viewed. The other thing that a lot of people may be unaware of, and again, a lot of this high-tech crime, sometimes very low-tech ways of getting information. Dumpster diving, just thinking about the type of information that you're just throwing out there.
Like people are going into your trash?
They're going into the trash. They're able to get mail. Think about what you're actually throwing out. Take a bank statement, for example. What type of information do you have on there? You have an address, you have a name, you have transactions. If you have that type of information, you can now target an individual by calling them up and saying, no, I'm legitimate. I'm actually the bank. I'm actually this person who I say I am. Oh, by the way, let me prove it to you. On this day, you made this transaction. On this day, you made this payment. All that information is out there, and it's there for the picking.
But all of our information is online, Detective.
It really is. And with the grandparent scam, Canada 411, they would type in a postal code and have a list of names, phone numbers, and addresses to start making their cold calls.
So I want to ask about the voice behind those calls, okay? Because we just talked to Kent, a victim in Alberta, who said, he picked up the phone and he was like, I am sure that was my grandson's voice. We found out it was a scam after. Is it AI? Is it voice cloning, Ritesh? What's going on here?
It could be a combination of stuff. Clearly, we're seeing artificial intelligence and generative AI being leveraged for these types of frauds and scams. There's apps out there, and by the way, these apps are coming out at a rapid pace. Before, you actually had to go in, you had to read a particular paragraph, and then it would clone your voice, essentially. No, that's no longer the case. You can take smaller clips. Maybe it's not the exact voice, but you can get pretty close. The tech is evolving at a rapid pace, and we're seeing it with voice, and we're going to start seeing it with video as well.
Is there an ideal victim?
The ideal victim would be someone that might not be on their A game. Maybe they have cognitive decline, maybe they're going through stress in their life, and when they get that cold phone call, in our investigation we found that there was no AI in the grandparent scam. It was just slugging the phone calls. Maybe you have 50 people and you get 1 or 2 victims, and that was a success for them.
I want to ask Ritesh, because I know a lot of people call you that have been scammed. Like, what does this do to their lives?
It is devastating. I think we always think about the fact, yes, somebody has been victimized, but you think about the emotional toll it takes on them, the psychological toll. I recently dealt with a victim who was scammed out of $250,000 to the point where they had a crisis, a personal crisis. They had to check themselves into the hospital. They needed, and they've never been the same. Imagine you open a bank account and there's all of a sudden $250,000 gone, your life savings, something you worked really hard for. And we think about the numbers, right? We talk about the millions of dollars that are lost, but at the end of the day, these are human beings. These are our citizens, our neighbors, our friends, our family that are being impacted by these types of frauds. And when you put a face to a number, it really hits home, and it's devastating.
When we talk about grandparent scams, we think about, you're hearing your grandchild, or you think you're hearing your grandchild or someone that you love. But I understand that there's some other scams on the rise for seniors that you've looked into, Detective.
Yeah, the bank investigator scam. Okay. And really, the pitch might be different, but their end goal is the same. It's to get people to panic, to rush in, taking their money out of their financial institution or transferring money and hand it over to the bad actors. So they prey on people that are kind.
And how does that practically happen? So they call, and then what's the follow through there?
So the phone call will be, I'm a representative from a financial institution or a major company, a brand. There's been suspicious transactions on your credit card. In order for you to secure your credit card, you have to transfer all your funds over to a government wallet or a government bank account of some sort. And so they're telling these seniors, cut up your bank card, have your chip, put it in a manila envelope, put your PIN number, we'll have someone pick it up and get you a new card. And so
That's wild and brazen.
Yeah, and they'll convince these people that in order to help this major investigation with law enforcement, you need to put your money in a controlled wallet or account, and then once the investigation's done, you're gonna get your money back.
Is there a dead giveaway when someone is being scammed?
For me, it's always the pressure tactic, the sense of urgency. They want to keep you on the phone. They want you to do something. They encourage you not to tell anyone. They tell you that there's a sense of this has to be done right now. And the big reason for that is they don't want you to hit that pause button. And the whole idea here is to get you to panic, to do something. Sometimes they have some sensitive information that you're like, only a bank would know that. Only the police would know that about me. But that information's out there.
What would you say in terms for seniors that might get one of these calls? What would you tell them?
We're always telling people it's okay to hang up and question who is actually calling you. So if it's your financial institution that you believe is calling because it shows on your call display, hang up and call your financial institution with the number on the back of your card. Mm-hmm. Same thing with impersonations of judicial officials. Call that local police station, maybe call the Crown Attorney's office to verify the information.
I was fascinated by the Ontario stats from the OPP that in the first 6 months of 2025, there was $46 million that was lost from seniors in this province. And yet, it was interesting to learn that only 5 to 10% of cases are reported. It feels like you're up against a tsunami, Detective. Does it feel like you're losing this war?
I'm encouraged by private-public partnerships. Police working with other police services or major telcos or insurance companies or financial institutions. We are coming together to try and combat this. We know that it's a challenge. The other thing is where to find information. And the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre has a really great website. They have A to Z frauds where you can find out different frauds that may be hitting you. They have what to do if you're a victim. So if you do find yourself victimized, there's 9 steps on what to do. And we try and encourage people to be aware of the different fraud trends. So knowledge is power.
Beyond a safe word, what can people do to protect themselves?
So I would go even beyond a safe word. I would think just have a safe phrase. I think that's number one. Number two is have somebody that you can bounce ideas off of. If you do end up getting those calls, you're hitting that pause button. You're phoning a friend and saying, "Hey, I just got this. Is this legitimate?" And go to the source. So if someone claims to be the police, be like, okay, thank you. Hang up, call the police, look up the number on a search engine, on a website, and contact them and validate and verify they are who they say they are. Just don't take the information you get at surface level as being the absolute. Do your homework, and in the cybersecurity world, we call that deploy a zero trust protocol.
Yeah, and I always say be your own detective. Put whatever fraud type you think or what has been presented to you into a search engine and type plus symbol fraud, and you'll be amazed what you're going to find.
Amazing. Great tips. Thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you.
Did you know the Liberals recently unveiled the country's first ever national anti-fraud strategy?
To build a stronger country, we must first and foremost protect Canadians against all types of crimes, including financial crimes, scams, and abuse.
The government's plan is to put in place a financial crimes agency to tackle online scams, and propose legislation that would require banks to get express permission from their clients to enable money transfers and major payments. The feds are expected to table legislation for the new agency in the spring. This season on Big If True, you might notice that things look a little different. That's because we're out of our regular studio and working in new locations, close to the stories and closer to you across Ontario. Join us every Sunday night as we tackle an onslaught of misinformation and disinformation. What's real? What's not? Let's figure it out together. Watch Big If True every Sunday night at 8 p.m. on TVO and anytime online. It's that time again. We're back with your favorite fact check on TV. Our team scoured the headlines this week, and here's what we wanted to clear up. Elon Musk wants to go head-to-head with Wikipedia, but does he have his facts straight? Dubbed Grokpedia, this AI-powered competitor went live in late October, featuring more than 800,000 articles, all of them written and supposedly fact-checked by Musk's own AI chatbot, Grok. Musk has frequently accused Wikipedia of left-wing bias, claiming the switch to Grokpedia would be a massive improvement. But is it? Early reviews of Grokpedia say the site appears to support conservative views, and in some cases, features inaccuracies. One article by The Verge points out that Grokpedia claims that some ethnic groups are more intelligent than others, a notion widely debunked as racist pseudoscience. Musk says he and his team will be looking for as much critical feedback as possible. But just like your high school teacher warned you about Wikipedia, be careful what you consume. Have you heard about thieves on the move at the Louvre? Of course you have. It made a fire Halloween costume. But did you see this? Footage of the so-called real burglars climbing out the window with millions of dollars in stolen jewels. Well, turns out that was AI. An AFP fact check confirms our suspicions. Some clues. This room with the so-called heisters doesn't match the decor of the real crime scene. And as they're supposedly making their escape, one person seems to step into thin air. See it? There's also a reflection of a hand holding a smartphone, even though there's no visible mirror in the room. And most blatant of them all, some versions of the video still have the watermark for Sora, an app by the makers of ChatGPT that allows users to make lifelike AI videos. We'll be taking a closer look at Sora this fall, so stay tuned for that. P.S. French authorities are still investigating the heist, but in the meantime, don't get caught falling for a deepfake. And finally, if you've ever scanned a QR code, you might be at risk of a cyber attack. It's something called QR phishing or quishing. Scammers use fake QR codes to lure in unsuspecting victims. All it takes is a 2-second scan through your phone's camera, and a malicious link could take you to sites designed to harvest your passwords, trick you into unwanted payments, or infect your device with malware. Fraudsters place the codes on signs and in flyers, in emails, and even on top of real QR codes used by businesses. So what can we do? When the QR code takes you to a website, double check the URL link. And don't forget, you can always go old school, look up the website manually. So the next time you're grabbing lunch or trying to score a promotional deal, think twice about what you scan and where that scan could take you. And that's your reality check. Now you're in the know.
3, 2, 1, go!
Can you tell the difference between AI and reality? The new social media app Sora is making it harder. Coming soon on Big If True, we look at what's real and what's not in AI video.
Not sure who to trust in a world of misinformation? Come to Big If True. Find us on Instagram and YouTube. Visit our website for extra content. Email us to get your thoughts on the show.
Well, the next time a call comes in, be aware, be critical, and ask questions to figure out who's really on the other end. And don't forget Kent's advice. A safe word could save you thousands of dollars. I'm Molly Thomas. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Sunday or anytime online.